Um, Jacoby, his stats for this game: 47 completions, 57 attempts, 452 yards, two touchdowns, two interceptions, no sacks. I mean, he has good stats. It's good numbers. I'm sure someone like Drew Petzing's loving these stats because, it kind of gives him a nod into keeping his job. Because if you guys don't know, at the end of the year, Drew Petzing, his contract is up. So there's rumors going around that the Cardinals aren't going to renew him. I personally don't think the Cardinals are going to renew him. You guys could bookmark it right here. I don't think he's coming back into the team unless they re-sign him. There's going to be definitely a new offense coordinator, but I mean, I just don't know what to say, guys. Quarterback's not going to fix it, especially a rookie quarterback. I mean, I know you're going to draft a quarterback either in the first round, second round, day one or day two. You're definitely drafting a quarterback this offseason. I personally don't think it's going to change anything. I think in my mind is you definitely have to fix this offensive line first and foremost. I mean, Paris Johnson, left tackle. He's a great left tackle. He's a Pro Bowl, All Pro level in my eyes left tackle, and he got called for some bad penalties. I mean, you guys saw this team here. Let me bring up the stats. They bring up the penalties. No, it doesn't bring up the penalties right here. But here's team stats right here. Penalties. They had 17, a franchise record, 17 penalties for 130 yards lost. So a lot of that were some touchdowns lost, right? Like the big play, I think it was to Greg Dortch that was called back because of a holding penalty, or I believe it was Bam Knight, one of them two. A few other penalties, just giving the 49ers life. The block field goal from Calais Campbell. He tried to block the field goal like any defensive lineman would, and he gets called for a penalty because someone pushes him into the center, into the long snapper, which I don't think that's a real thing. And also the two penalties to Paris Johnson, to Kelvin Beachum, when they're playing great, tackle gameplay and just chopping the defensive end's hands, the pass rusher's hands, and they're just unfortunately getting called for a holding penalty when you're just knocking the edge rusher down. Josh Sweat played great. I say Michael Wilson had an amazing game, career game for Michael Wilson. But man, it just sucks seeing this team regress every single week when this season was supposed to be the breakout season for this whole team. You had last year, you were able to make the playoffs, but unfortunately, second half you fell off a cliff, and being 6-4, you lost I think 3 or 4 straight games, and you just weren't competitive down the stretch. And you kind of gave the coaching staff, you gave Kyler, you gave this offense, this defense, this front office, the benefit of the doubt, saying, hey, still a young team. It's year 2 of the rebuild. Let's go ahead and bring everyone back, right, for year 3, and let's rerun it back. We could make the playoffs, win a division, hopefully. That was a talk going into the season. You had, I know I said it, I posted it a bunch where I said that this defense was going to be a top 5 to 10 defense, if they stay healthy, and I still believe they could be a top 5 to 10 defense. It's just this offense is horrible. It's not giving the defense a chance. Also, the coaching is just all over the place for this defense. I think we have star players, throughout the line, from the defensive line all the way back to the secondary. Right? You have Calais Campbell, who's playing great. He's playing out of his mind. You have Dalvin Tomlinson, who's a great run stuffer. Right? You have Walter Nolan, who's playing great off of the injury. Darius Robinson, I think he's playing better recently, but he's just not what you expected, at least for this year 1. Josh Sweat is a great free agent signing. He's playing, lights out. The combination of Zaven Collins and a little bit of Barrett Browning, not this game, and also the other edge rushers, they're playing great. B.J. Ojulari's finally healthy. He had that second point conversion, sack. Linebacker Mac Wilson, he wasn't in this game because of injury, right? It's going to be a consistent theme of just talking about injuries, but he's playing great this year. I believe it. Cody Simon, our 5th round rookie, he's playing solid for a 5th round rookie. I think he's playing, up to, a standard that we could feel confident him coming back next season. And the secondary, I think, is playing great, right? Will Johnson, whenever he's in the lineup, he's playing great. Max Melton is coming into his own right now. Denzel Burke is having a great, last month of the season where has it 2 interceptions, right? He's passing, he's breaking up plays, stuff like that. Buda Baker, you guys know my, I don't know, my personal feelings with Buda Baker, where I don't think he was deserving of a contract extension. I mean, just from a safety, in my eyes, you're supposed to turn the ball over, right? You're supposed to create turnovers. If not, be good in coverage or, bunch of PBUs, whatever that is, but you're supposed to not let, people catch the ball on you. And I think, Buda Baker is famous for, letting tight ends, catch the ball all over him. He makes great tackles, right? We haven't seen too many of those, tackle for losses this season, but, throughout his career, he's made great tackles, right? But other than that, I think he gets exposed in coverage, and he just, unfortunately, doesn't create turnovers. Jalen Thompson, he's playing better than last year, but, still, that secondary, I think, is solid. Other than it has been the last couple of years. So you have a great defense. It's just, for whatever reason, this coaching staff is just not putting these players in positions to win or to play better. Because I guarantee you, if these players go to different franchises, right, or if they have different set of coaches, I believe that they have the chance to be a great defense. So that's kind of my spiel on defense. Let me see what you guys are saying. Yeah, like I said, going back to the rookie quarterback, I do believe we got to get a better offensive line. Kelvin Beachum, he's late 30s. He's Grandpa Beachum. He's not going to be playing for much longer on that on the right tackle side. I think he's year to year at this point. Will Hernandez is looking solid. He's coming off the ACL injury, so I don't expect him to be too great, but he's definitely an upgrade over what Isaiah Adams was in that right guard spot. Froholt seems like he's regressed. I don't know what's happening at the center position, but he's just real up and down. And that left guard spot, Evan Brown, he's regressed from last year, but he's not, at least recently, he's not been as bad as he was in the beginning of the season. This offensive line just needs a whole new makeover. Starting, I think, at the right tackle spot. You got to get a right tackle, first or second round in the draft. I think that's one of the main positions that you have to go for. This is a heavy interior offensive line draft. If you're looking for a guard or a center, I think this draft is great for that. There's a few tackles, but it's not anything high end. But at this point, I don't think you need anything high end, right? You have a high end left tackle in Paris Johnson. No team really has two great offensive tackles unless you're the Eagles. But getting a solid right tackle, a young one that's just, you're able to be great in the pass game and be physical and aggressive in the run game. I think that's one of the main things that you're looking for at that right tackle spot. And then getting, a guard or a center just to help either someone behind Froholt, because I think this is the last year of Froholt. I think he has either this year or 1 year remaining after that. And then getting hopefully someone that could develop under Jacoby Brissett this year and seeing what happens. Dante Moore is great. I don't think he's good for what we have in this system right now. Mendoza's, he's phenomenal, but are you going to be, judging by how these games are going, yeah, you might have a chance at a top 5 pick, but 3-7 when other teams are winning, I just don't think the odds are with you right now. I think you'll be picking anywhere from, let's say on the low end, you're picking anywhere from the 7th pick all the way to maybe the 12th pick. That's what I believe, because the schedule coming up for the Cardinals is not too bad. I mean, we talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago, but this Cardinals schedule isn't horrible. I mean, the 49ers you lost, but next week you're home against the Jaguars. That could be a win. That's one of the more plausible wins. Week after that, you're at the Buccaneers. That doesn't look like it's going to be a win. Versus the Rams, I don't even want to watch that game. That Rams, I just know we're going to lose. It's going to be another 40-something to 20-something game from the Rams. Against the Texans, that could be a win. You're going to Texas, going to Houston. Against the Falcons, I mean, the Falcons have a great offense right now with Bijan, so that could be a win. Against the Bengals, Joe Burrow's going to be in that game more than likely, so I don't think that's going to be a win. That just offense is too I mean, that's going to be, in my opinion, similar to the Cowboys game, where a high-powered offense with a struggling defense, and you play the Rams again for the final game of the season, Week 18, and I just don't think that's going to be competitive. So for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, for the next 7 games, you have maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 wins. 4 wins coming hopefully next week against the Jaguars, against the Texans, Falcons, and Bengals. Right, your 4 wins are right there. If you could do that, hopefully, if you get those 4 wins, I think you're still picking around pick 10. Give or take a few spots. But I don't think the Cardinals are going to be that bad. I mean, you'd have to lose out every single game to probably get a top 5 to 3 to 5 pick. And for how bad this coaching staff is, especially these last 2 weeks, it seems like the players are quitting at this point. Starting off the game, going down, what was it, 13-0 off of those interceptions, off of the 98-yard kick return, stuff like that. I don't think this team is going to get much better unless something crazy happens. So yeah, I mean, that's probably my prediction for the next couple of weeks. If you guys are interested in that, Seth saying, is it a Kyler problem? It's not an anything problem, my guy. I know a lot of people, especially I think this regime, kind of made Kyler to be the bad guy, but I don't think he's a bad guy, man. Because in the beginning of the season, right, we played the 49ers and the Seahawks, right? We played the Seahawks. We were down 3 points. That was Kyler's last healthy game. And then against the 49ers, we played and we lost by 1 point, right? Both last-second field goals. So, and then you come back these last 2 weeks with Jacoby Brissett, you lose 44-22, 41-22. I don't think this is a Kyler problem. I know some of you guys are gonna say it's something different. I think it's just a coaching problem in general. I mean, you could put Patrick Mahomes out there for all I care, and it's gonna be the same, I think, offense and defense. Scott Bailey saying, yeah, 3 years of the rebuild, they're getting smoked. Yeah, it's unfortunate we're year 3 of the rebuild. And I posted this multiple times on Twitter saying that there's typically 4 stages to a rebuild, 4 years in a rebuild. The 1 year, right, we did that, whereas you lose big, right? You lose by a lot. It's the beginning of the rebuild. You're trying to see, who's going to be a part of the future of the team. You're trying to see who's going to be the team, stuff like that. And that was that year when Kyler was out with his ACL injury, right? Lost a bunch. You're kind of figuring out, is Paris Johnson a guy? Do we have Budda Baker still in there? Jalen Thompson? That was Trey McBride's kind of breakout year in a sense. So, that was the first stage of the rebuild. Second stage is you're losing close games. And I think that happened last year, and it was like part of this year too, where you're losing, 3-score games. You're losing, last-second field goals. Those little close games where it's like, hey, you see the foundation of this team, but it's just, you just need maybe better players. You just need, your draft picks to be more experienced, and then you're able to win those games. So this year was supposed to be, you're losing. Instead of losing by a little bit, you're winning by a little bit. And unfortunately, that's just not the case. Going 1, 2, you're going to have 5 straight L's. You're losing by a little bit. So it still feels like we're in that stage 2 of the rebuilding, year 3, which, it just doesn't make sense. And especially the last 2 weeks when you're losing by a combined of 20 odd points, it's just horrible to look at that. It's horrible to see. And, unfortunately, I don't see it getting much better as the season goes on. So James saying, keep losing and draft Mendoza. I like Mendoza. Like I said, I don't think you're going to get a top 3 pick. In my opinion, I'm a big fan of Ty Simpson. I think he'll be there, later on, that 5 to 10 to 15 pick range. So Ty Simpson is someone that could be up there too. I'm not real into Lenore Sellers, even though they played great right now against Texas A&M. I'm not a big fan of him. Mendoza, I like him, but I just haven't honestly looked at these quarterbacks all too often, so I didn't think we had a quarterback problem, so I wasn't really looking at the quarterback. But unfortunately, like I said last week, I think Kyler's going to be traded, So you're definitely starting over, looking for a new franchise quarterback because Jacoby, he's 32, 33 at this point. So he's not going to be your future quarterback. He's mainly going to be that bridge quarterback. So he's signed for next year. So get ready to see more of Jacoby Brissett. Trevor is saying we could keep Kyler one more year and wait for the better draft class. Yeah, I mean, I think Kyler. I think he's a better quarterback than Jacoby is. I don't think that's a question. But for this offense, I think Jacoby's better for this offense than Kyler is right now at this point. So I think it just depends what type of offense coordinator you bring. So looking ahead into the offseason, let's say if you're Jonathan Gannon, because I do believe, no matter what you guys say, unless you really lose out and every single game looks like this, because I think you obviously can't compete within your division, right? You're losing big against Seahawks. You're losing big against the 49ers. I don't even want to see how we look against the Rams because we haven't even played the Rams yet. So the Rams, their defense and their offense look great. So, we're just judging to see where that's going in 2 or 3 weeks. So look ahead into this offseason. You're definitely not going to keep Drew Petting. I feel like this whole offensive staff is going to change. Minus, I do believe we have a great tight ends coach. I mean, I think, Trey McBride, he's really become one of the best tight end in the league. Elijah Higgins, I think he's playing solid for a tight end 2-3. And then Tip Ryman, he was playing great before he got injured. So I think we have a good tight ends coach. Other than that, I feel like the rest of the coaching staff is going to be out of here. And especially if you get a new offensive coordinator, and especially if he's a guy kind of like a Brian Dable, or like if Mike McDaniels ends up getting fired in Miami, or someone like a Kevin Stefanski comes in, or just someone else with head coaching experience, I feel like they'll bring in their guys. So unfortunately, I feel like this whole offensive staff is going to be cleaned out. And at that point, let's say you get a new coaching staff. That's going to be sometime in February, right? January, February. So hopefully the Cardinals get on it, right? They get on it ahead of time, and they have some sort of, some sort of plan where, in my opinion, you get someone like a Brian Dable to come in, someone that's had head coaching experience, someone that's been in this league for a while, and that has, it's creative offensively. Because Drew Petting, it's his first time being a coordinator, coming from the Cleveland, Kevin Stefanski system, and I don't think I think he's just too into over his head. He had a great run game. Maybe it's injuries, maybe it's philosophy, maybe it's defensive coordinators having film on him now, but it's just nothing's changing these past couple of years. You're not creating the offense to help with your draft picks. You have athletic freak in Kyler Murray. You have one of the greatest receiver prospects in the past 5 years in Marv. You have the number one tight end in the league in Trey McBride. As we saw Michael Wilson could play, right? He had, let's see Michael Wilson's stats. I think he had 150 yards, 180 yards, something crazy like that. Michael Wilson, 15 receptions for 185 yards, no touchdowns. 15 catches on 18 targets. So obviously, Michael Wilson could play. He could play great. And you have great offensive weapons, right? Other than that, you have Trey Benson, who's coming back in the next couple of weeks. He's going to be, elevated off of IR. So you have these offensive players who, for the most part, are great players. The offensive line is struggling, but there could be different, like the Packers game. You could have a tight end in there to help Jonah Williams, chip block Micah Parsons. There's ways you could create a better, kind of disguised offensive line. So whatever offensive coordinator you bring into, they have a great infrastructure of what they could use. So let's say an offensive coordinator comes in and, he says, Brian Dable comes in. He's like, hey, I love how Kyler Murray executes his things. I feel like we could really use him and, get him to the max potential he could be. So if we're keeping Kyler, I could see something like that happening. But, just to be honest with you guys, I think for the most part, Petting's leaving for the most part, Kyler's going to be traded no matter what, unless, like I said, an offensive coordinator comes in and really kind of begs for Kyler Murray to stay. Then I could see him staying for one more year, and then maybe drafting a guy day one, day two to kind of learn behind Jacoby and Kyler. But for the most part, I think Kyler's gone, Pexing's gone, offensive staff is going to be gone, and you're kind of seeing next year you're going to have Jacoby and a draft pick, and that's going to be your offense. Hopefully, James Conner's going to come back. You're going to wait and see what happens with Buddha. Jalen Thompson, hopefully. I like Jalen Thompson. I think he's a better cover corner safety than what we give him credit for. But unfortunately, I think his contract's up, so I don't think they'll just re-sign him. They'll have Rabbit Taylor Demerson, playing alongside Buddha. So AZ Cardinals territory, good team on paper, poorly coached. Exactly. I do believe it's a great team on paper, and whatever messaging is not getting across, because as a team, when you have 18 penalties, I mean, that's not a refereeing part. I understand, I had my gripes about the refereeing. You have 17 penalties for 130 yards. So I do believe some of them were tick-tacky, but at the same time, if you're coaching your team correctly, these penalties aren't going to happen, right? Like year one of Gannon, especially even last year too, there was stretches where the team had maybe one penalty, for 5 games, and you could tell this was a strict team, right? They were very disciplined, and they weren't creating those penalties, right? Jonathan Gannon would get mad if we had one penalty, and throughout the last couple of weeks, we're having 5 or more, 10, closer to 10 penalties every single game. And I think it's just, Gannon's losing grip of the locker room. I think his coaching, at least for the players, is going in one ear, out the other. Whatever Drew Petzing is calling, maybe it sounds good on paper, but they're not executing like the little stuff. Like when Jacoby Brissett went out wide and it was a wildcat direct snap to, I think it was Bam Knight. If you have that in your playbook and you're rehearsing it week after week after week, you should know, or you should be coached up as that running back. Hey, let me wait for Jacoby to get set for 1 to 2 seconds, and then let me snap the ball. Right? At this point, you're just waiting for Jacoby to get out to your field of view, and then you're snapping the ball before you even get set, and that's a penalty where you gain maybe 3 to 5 yards, but it didn't matter because that was a penalty because you weren't set correctly. So little things like that falls on coaching. Right, the holding penalties, I don't think they were. I think those are tick-tacky, right? But other than that, like the holding penalties, some of them were just bad. The defensive pass interference penalties, those are bad. I mean, that falls on the players first and foremost because they should know better. But at the same time, if you're not getting coached up on it consistently, then there's nothing for the players to kind of lean on. So I think mainly it's coaching, right? If I would put a percentage on it, it'd be 70% coaching, about 50%. 70% coaching, 30% on the players. I do believe the players, for the most part, I think they're good players. So before I blame a player, especially like high draft picks like Paris Johnson, like Marv, like Will Johnson, right? High elite level players that came from high elite level colleges and universities. Before I blame them, I'll blame the coaching staff, because the coaching staff should elevate them, especially in the NFL. So let me see what else you guys are saying. This is not the team that beat the Cowboys 3 weeks ago. No, I mean, it's the same team. It's just like I just said, I think it's coaching, man. For the main part, it's coaching, because I think you had maybe that bye week, and then trying to get prepared for yourself again, and you're playing Monday night prime time, at the Cowboys Stadium. So there was maybe a little bit of hype behind that, but for the most part, they executed well, and it falls on players and coaching. They were coached for 2 weeks before that, but then the Seahawks came and kind of just ripped the soul out of the Cardinals, the franchise's body. Right, that first quarter against the Seahawks kind of shell-shocked them, and they never recovered since that. And you kind of use this week saying, hey, last week not the brand of football that we play. Let's go ahead and go this week against the 49ers and let's show them our brand of football and what we can play. You come out, an interception happens, right? The 98-yard touchdown happens, and you kind of, I think, as a player, as a coach, as a team, you kind of get shell shocked again, and kind of those memories happen, those flashbacks happen to last week, and you're just kind of playing as a shell of yourself. And I think that's how this team is playing right now. This team's playing like they're a shell of themselves. They don't, coaching wise, they don't know what they're doing. Players wise, they're just out there half-assing it, going through the motions. There's some players like Cody Simon, like Calais, like Josh Sweat, who are playing out of their mind. Trey McBride, Michael Wilson. There's a few players here and there that are playing out of their minds. They're playing because they want to be out there and they want to win. But for the most part, they're just not getting put into positions to win, and that falls on the coaching staff. Zach saying Gannon and Petzing need to go. Someone needs to be fired. They're not getting fired mid-season. That's my belief, just because of how this coaching staff, I think they don't want to operate like that. They don't want to be seen as a team that's, hey, let me go out and fire this coaching staff halfway through the season. That's why they didn't fire them after the Titans loss, because Gannon doesn't want to be seen as a coach that fires their coordinators, right? He wants to still, and you could tell by his press conferences too, saying that, hey, it's not on any of the coaches, not on the players, it's on him first and foremost. So he's the type of guy, he's the type of head coach that, takes all the blame in the media onto himself, and then after that he'll, privately talk to the coaches and deal with them in that regard. So he wants to be viewed as a player and a coach's coach first. So he's going to protect his guys before he throws them under the bus. So that's why I think that Petzing hasn't been fired yet, and especially his contract ends at the end of the year. So you're going to wait to see how that looks. And also I think there's another part of it where you don't have anyone under Petzing that could call plays, right? You had Drew Terrell in the preseason call the last two final preseason games, and that looked horrible. So I don't know if you're used to that. I don't know if you want to bring that out there, because, yeah, the offense, this team sucks, but at the same time, we're putting up 452 yards of passing, right? And Michael Wilson's having great athletic catches. So even though the score is horrible, but, I mean, this offense, you have some glimpses of great offense. So I don't think, I could tell you guys, for first and foremost, it could get a lot worse than this. This isn't, being a Cardinals fan, you guys know it could get a lot worse than this. So I think that's one thing where they're scared of how worse it can get. I mean, if you're coaching scared, that's also, it's a like yin and yang, where it's like, hey, I don't want to fire Petzing because it could get worse, but at the same time, you're not getting any better with Petzing, right? You're not seeing what maybe Drew Terrell can do. Maybe Spencer Whipple, or I forgot who our QB coach is. What one of them two, our pass game coordinator, if they could, call plays. So it's, you never know if the grass is greener on the other side. It could get a lot worse, but I think they're just going to stick with it because Petzing's contract's up this year. This season's already lost. I mean, you're just playing for pride at this point. You're, 3-7 on the year. So you're not going to, there's no playoffs. Maybe towards the end of the year, you're going to play to kind of be that joker for a team where, hey, if we beat the Rams last week of the season, instead of them having a home playoff game, they'll be on the road. So I think you're playing for that at this point. But other than that, I don't think they're firing anyone right now, because if they would have done it, they would have done it, I believe, against that Titans game, right? That Titans loss, and then that 5-game skid was horrible. I could see something happening tomorrow, just because you lost by 20 points against division rivals, against the Seahawks and the 49ers. So I could see something like that happening, but at the same time, just understanding how this coaching staff is, how Gannon is, and how Monty Ossenfort is, they don't want to be seen as a franchise to get rid of someone just because they're not playing well, right? Because there is, if you're going to try and recruit someone like a Brian Dable, like a Mike McDaniels if he gets fired. Like maybe if for whatever reason the Packers fire Matt LaFleur, if you're gonna try and recruit one of those guys in, you don't want to recruit him saying, hey, our last offensive coordinator had a bad 2-game stretch and we fired him, we got him out the way. And same thing I think kind of goes for Jonathan Gannon too, right? Monty Ossenfort doesn't want to seem like a GM that'll just fire a coaching staff 3 years into a rebuild when, for the most part, you kind of stunted that first year where you got rid of literally everyone on that on the roster. So you don't want to be seen like that. There is a thing in the league as putting a good face forward. So I think they're just gonna wait, do it the nice amicable way where, hey, we're not gonna. They'll probably put out a statement at the end of the year in January, February saying, hey, we're not going to renew the contract of Drew Petzing. We both think it's best that we find, different avenues of whatever. So whatever they're going to put out PR-wise, I think that's what's going to happen at the end of the year. I think they're going to write it out. I wonder here, can anyone in the comments tell me if Gannon had a 4 or 5 year deal? I'm not too sure. Let me look it up. Jonathan Gannon contract. He signed a 5-year deal. So Gannon's going to be here for the next 2 years at least. So I think they're going to ride that out. Next year, if it looks like this horrible, I do believe Ossenfort could fire Gannon, but I don't think it's anything crazy like that. So Michael, 1 year left after this year. So he had a 5-year deal. So this is year 3. So he has next year and the year after that. Or that could be like a team option, something like that. Oh, yeah, 5 years. So we're halfway through it. I don't think they're going to fire him. If you guys saw on Twitter, I've been posting they're not going to fire him. And, people are up in arms about that. But I don't think that's going to happen right now. Let me go back through some of these comments. Assassinate Bidwell. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it is Bidwell's team. It's going to be his team. It's going to be in the Bidwell family for the foreseeable future. So, Matt saying Wilson, Dortch, and Trey look great. That's about it. Yeah, I mean, I put it out there on Twitter too. Dortch, second half of the season, Dortch is one of the most fun players I've ever seen. Even going back to ever since he got into this team, it feels like at the end of the year when the year is out of hands and you're just like, man, everyone's hurt, everyone's injured. Greg Dortch gets his shot at playing and he plays amazing. He plays great. He's always giving spark to his offense. That's one thing I wish you could see more of is Greg Dortch in this offense, right? He's one of those players where, he maybe doesn't have all the physical tools. He's 5'7", 190, 180, but whenever he gets the ball in his hands, he's electric. He's playing out of his mind. He's breaking tackles. He's spinning out. He's just difficult to bring down. So players like that, right? Football type of players, you want to just get the ball in their hands, and that's one of the strikes on Drew Petzing where you have great playmakers. I mean, we see glimpses of it here and there where Trey McBride, like I said, he's the best tight end in the league. You focus the offense around him, but at the same time, you don't get him touchdowns. You can't get your 6'4", 6'5", 240, 50-pound tight end touchdown last year. You can't get him in the red zone this year. You have to have Jacoby Brissett, force the ball to him. So little things like that is showing that this offensive coaching staff just is in over their heads, and they don't know how to incorporate the players that they have at their disposal. They can't change their offense, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to run this offense, and if you fit it, great. If you don't, we're going to force you into something that you're not good at, right? Like Michael, going back to Greg Dortch. He's great if you get the ball in his hands with space, right? He's able to create plays, but he's maybe not the guy that you want over the middle in between the hashes trying to catch a ball in between two safeties, right? That's not his game. And you keep on forcing Dortch to be like that, you're just not going to be better as an offense. So same thing with Michael Wilson, right? Michael Wilson and Marv, they're both great players. You see them play great when they have the opportunity, but you're keeping Marv outside the numbers, right? And having him, hey, you're just a traditional, 2000s receiver where you're just going straight, you're just running a corner, you're just running a post, you're running a crossover, and that's it, right? You're not like they're not like other teams in the league where it's like, hey, we have a Jamar Chase, we have a Justin Jefferson, we have a CD Lamb. Instead of, yeah, they could probably be great just outside, true X receiver, and they're just outside the numbers and they're playing that physical one-on-one receiver. Instead of doing that, good coaches, they're like, hey, let me move in the slot, let me move in the other side, let me create mismatches where instead of he's going against the other team's corner one, he's going against a safety or he's going against the team's second or third string corner. So this offense hasn't been able to do that for 3 years. So I just a strike on Drew Petzing. Nolan Smith saying, will Trey Benson be our guy? I believe in Trey Benson. I think he's a great running back. I think he could be a future, lead running back for the Cardinals. He has the size, right? He's 6'1", 210, I think 220 around there. Great speed, at the combine. I think he was one of the faster running backs, top percentile in terms of his 40-yard dash and his agility. And he's a great, dual threat guy. You guys saw when he was back at Florida State, he was one of the only players in the country at that time who had multiple 80-yard receiving touchdowns and multiple 80-yard rushing touchdowns. So he's a dual threat guy. He has the size. I think he could be our guy in the future. But unfortunately, it doesn't matter if we have a crap offensive line, right? We have to build up the interior's offensive line. This right tackle situation has to be changed. And at that point, I think I think he has the makes of being a number one guy. I just think he has to, first of all, get experience, right? Because he's been the past 2 years or 1 or 2 years, he's been behind James Conner. And unfortunately, when he got his chance, he just got hurt. And the Cardinals this year, they just have the injury bug. I don't know if it's the injury bug or I don't know if it's the coaching, the strength and conditioning staff. They just can't keep their guys healthy. So either one of those, I do believe Trey Benson will be our guy. So I like him. Seth saying Jacoby Brissett's taking over. Yeah, he's having great offensive success, but if it's not turning into wins, then he could have 1,000 passing yards in the game. If we're losing by 20 points, does it really matter? If we're being honest. So yeah, Jacoby's playing great. He's definitely playing better than Kyler. I'll give you guys that. But at the same time, look at the scores. I mean, we had more of a chance to win with Kyler. I think he gives us better in the run game. But Jacoby, he's playing lights out right now. I mean, outside of the 2 picks, he's playing, he's having 400-yard passing games. Let me see. Matt saying Trey needs to lock in, or we're going to find a running back 1 in a Murray deal. Yeah, I mean, I think you're kind of alluding to the Kyler getting traded to the Jets. Like I said, I like Trey. I just think he needs opportunity. I think he needs experience. He just needs to play more. I think that's my main thing with Trey. He has all the physical tools. He just needs to get used to playing in the NFL. Darnell Dockett shook Harbaugh's hand during the game once. I have no idea what you guys are talking about right there. Let's see, Seth again. Jacoby putting his ass on the line, and these coaches are such a joke. Yeah, I mean, Jacoby, I'll give all credit to Jacoby Brissett. He's standing in the pocket, and he's playing, he's a warrior, man. He's in there. He's dotting up the 49ers defense for the most part. I think he only had 10 incompletions. Let me look at that correctly. 49ers game. Let's see, box score. Yeah, he went 47 for 57. Yeah, 10 incompletions, 452 yards, 7.9 depth of targets, 96.8 rating. It's just the 2 interceptions really held us back. And yeah, unfortunately, that's, if you give the 49ers, a chance to have the ball multiple possessions with Kyle Shanahan, with Christian McCaffrey, they're going to score points. So you turn the ball over a few times, that's what's going to happen. Our defense got fried all game, buddy. What are you talking about? I think you're talking about, I said potentially with a chance to have a top defense, but at the same time, the way they're being coached right now is just not a top 10 defense, and that's why they're playing like crap. I do like the players like Will Johnson, Max Melton. I think they're playing great. Traylon Burke, after Denzel Burke, he's playing great. Buddha, I don't think he's all right, he's solid. He's just being Buddha. Pass rush is solid. I think it's just better coaching for at the end of the day. Matt saying our special teams sold our defense on returns and kicks. CMC gonna CMC. We handed them the good field position. Yeah, I think it was before the halftime. I think it was 2 out of 3 San Francisco possessions started on the Cardinals side of the field, so past the 50-yard line. So that was the beginning opening drive, and I think that was either the interception where they started well past the 50. So little things like that to an offense, to a Kyle Shanahan-led offense, is going to be bad, right? You're not going to win that game. Let's see. What else are you guys saying? Greetings from Germany. What's up? What's up, Germany? I think there was a few, I don't know if it was Belgium or Germany. There was a few guys that were out of the country that came to the Cardinals game, which is great to see. We talked to them on Twitter a bunch. So seeing international guys, fans come to the games is great. I feel bad that you guys are watching a horrible product, but hopefully, I believe in Monty Ossenfort. I don't know if you guys do, but I believe Monty Ossenfort, he's going to change his franchise. Hopefully, it's going to take a little bit. It's going to take good coaching, but good things are coming. I don't think it's going to be this bad for a while. We have great players, and those players are going to hopefully, blossom into changing this franchise. Matt saying, bring in Jordan Tyson and O-line and Sam Levitt next year. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need Jordan Tyson, right? We have 3 great offensive weapons. We have Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., and you guys saw Michael Wilson. I don't think we need another receiver. Definitely O-line. Definitely offensive line. But Sam Levitt, I'm not a big fan of his. It's not because of the fandom or whatever, but I just, I just not a big fan. Michael saying, honestly, don't see us winning another game, and subpar drafting is something no one is talking about. Yeah, I do see where everyone's talking about subpar drafting, especially last year's draft class. It isn't looking so hot, but I do believe for the most part we're getting great production from the draft class. I mean, we could search up here. Let me search up the draft class for you guys. Arizona. Here, our draft class. So we can look at the last couple drafts, right? Last 3 drafts where Monty Ossenfort was drafting. So 2023, Paris Johnson, I think he's a hit, right? B.J. Ojulari, unfortunately, he has a bunch of injuries, but I think I still believe he could play great if that knee holds up. I still believe he's a great player. Garrett Williams is one of the best cover corners in the game. I think he's one of the best slot corners in the game. Michael Wilson, he had a great game. I think he's a 1,000-yard receiver if you're able to get him involved. John Gaines is a miss. I'll give you guys that. Clayton Tune's a miss. Owen Papo, his special teams guy, 5th round. Keitrell Clark, I do believe for being a 6th-round pick, I think he's done great. Dante Stills, for being a 6th-round pick, I think he's been great. So I think out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 draft picks for 2023, Paris is a hit. Nothing on B.J. Ojulari. He's been hurt. Garrett Williams a hit. Michael Wilson, I think, is a hit. And then 3 hits and then 2 maybes with Keitrell Clark and Dante Stills. I mean, they're 6th-round picks, and I think they've played solid. So I think that first-year draft was great. It was solid. 2024, I think that's where people get back and forth about it. So Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he's still a great player. I don't think he's getting put in a position to be better, but I think he's a great player. Darius Robinson, unfortunately, he just hasn't been great so far. I mean, he was out most of last year with the calf injury and with the passing of his mother. So, this year he hasn't been so hot. I think he's played better, but I don't think he's going to be, just from what we've seen so far, I think Darius Robinson is never going to be 10-sack defensive lineman. I think he'll just be, one of those defensive linemen where he's great, He's going to be great in the run game, not give you much in the pass game. He'll have glimpses here and there. I think that's just what he is at this point in his career. Max Melton, I think he's playing solid for a second round pick. I do want more from him. I want more picks, more turnovers, but he's just, it's his second year, so I think he's meh. So if we give everyone a ranking, so hit, mid, and then a miss. So I think Max Melton's just been mid so far. Trey Benson, I think he's been, I'll give him mid so far. I don't think he's been bad. He's been hurt, and he hasn't been playing. He's been behind James Conner. So that's, I'll give him mid at this point. Isaiah Adams, I think, so far he's been a miss. He showed glimpses at the end of the last year, but this year he's played horrible, and he got replaced as soon as Will Hernandez was able to play a game. He just got benched. So I think he's been a miss so far. Tip Ryman, I mean, for what he is, I think he's been great. A run blocking tight end, but third round pick, I would just say that's a meh. I'd give a benefit of the doubt because he is, for what he does, he's played great, right? I think he's been a better pass blocker than Jonah Williams. Elijah Jones, I'd say that's a miss. Dadrian Taylor-Demison, I feel like that's a hit. He hasn't played much, but the times he's in there, he's electric, right? So, being a fourth-round defensive back, I think he's a hit. Xavier Thomas, I think he's a miss so far. I haven't really seen much from him. Christian Jones, miss. Fifth-round offensive tackle. Tayshaun Palmer, I don't think he's played a bunch, so that's a miss. Jaden Davis, miss. So it's like a wait and see with this 2024 draft class. Going into 2025 draft class, Walter Nolan, he's been hurt, but I think he's a hit, right? You saw him against the Cowboys, played great. Against the 49ers, he was playing great. He was pushing the pocket, but they only have 13 pass attempts. I didn't really see him this game. I don't remember if he was hurt or not. Let's see. Defense. Was he? Yeah, he played. He played this game. He had 2 tackles for loss. Yeah, it's just this game was just out of hand, out of reach. So I think he's played great. So far, I think Walter's a hit. Will Johnson, I think he's a hit, right? He's just been hurt. A lot of these players just been hurt. Jordan Birch, the times he's in, he's had glimpses. Third-round defensive end, so I think he's a mess so far. He hasn't been a hit, but I think he's shown flashes. Cody Simon, he's been meh. I think so far you see great glimpses, especially the last 2-3 weeks where he has a forced fumble. He's playing. He has the dot on his head, right? He's calling the defense, but he's just still, I think, super young at that spot right now. Denzel Burke been a meh. He had the 2 picks, but also I think he's let up a lot of big plays so far, so I'll give him a meh. Hayden Connor, haven't seen anything from him, so that's an invalid miss, I guess. And then Kitten Crawford, he's played in maybe a few games, but haven't seen much from him. So ultimately, I think Monty Ossenfort in this draft class has been solid so far. I mean, yeah, you're not going to hit on every pick, right? No matter what you guys think. The Rams guy, he misses a whole bunch. The Howie Roseman, he misses some draft picks. So ultimately, I think for the most part, he's drafting great. Francis, I'm not even going to say his last name, or Spencer Fano. I like Fano better, but it's to each his their own. Hello, Ty Simpson. I like Ty Simpson. I think he's great for the most part. So there's that. I'm a big Ty Simpson guy. I think he'll be one of the guys that could definitely be there at pick, around pick 10. So I think that's where the Cardinals are picking too. So hopefully if the Cardinals are able to get him, I feel like that'd be great. He gets to learn under Jacoby Brissett for a little bit. Michael saying, need Mike McCarthy, Robert Saleh type head coach. I like Mike McCarthy. He's always raised the floor of whatever team he's at, so I do like him. I don't know how high end he could be, but definitely a former head coach that could elevate and has a standard of winning. Robert Saleh, I'm low-key, I'm just tired of defensive head coaches, because I'm not saying Gannon's playing bad, but at the same time, Gannon, he's a defensive head coach. He's not calling the defense, not calling the offense. He's not changing anything. He's the CEO type head coach, so he's not really changing anything. He's just there to kind of help coach. So I don't like that type of head coach. I'm more on the side of give me an offensive coach because even in the fact, let's say you're playing great, right? This team's playing great. If you're a defensive head coach, you have a great team. Your offensive coordinator is going to get plucked, and you have to restart that system all over again. So I don't like having that feeling. Let's say, for a matter of fact, we bring in uh Wes, what's his name? Uh, who's the? You guys can help me out with this. Who's the Vikings offensive coordinator right now? Because I think that's someone that's kind of could come in and be the Cardinals offensive coordinator. Um, Vikings offensive coordinator Wes Phillips. Wes Phillips. So if you guys are new to this coaching stuff, keep an eye on Wes Phillips. I feel like he'll be a good guy maybe to come in here for his offensive coordinator job. So if let's say if a Wes Phillips comes, he plays great. In 2 years, he'll be taking head coaching jobs, and then you don't know who's after that. So I don't like that look. I'd rather have a head coach at the offensive coordinator that could help a Ty Simpson out for his whole career. Um, Michael Wilson's a great third receiver. Need a speedy receiver opposite of MHJ. Yeah, I do believe that. You need a tall, lanky, speedy receiver to help you out. Michael Wilson's wide receiver one. Yep, he has a potential to be a wide receiver one, right? He could put up great numbers. Um, let's see. Michael Gannon can't even take accountability and apologize to the fans spending all this money on season tickets. They raised 33%. Unbelievable. Yeah, unfortunately, I feel bad for season ticket holders because, yeah, you guys are spending your hard-earned money and you're seeing a crap product on TV on the field. So I think, it's sad to say, but I say just cancel the season tickets. It's easy for me to say because it's not my money. But at the same time, the only way for this coaching staff, for Michael Bidwell, for Austin Ford to see that we aren't liking the product is selling your tickets, getting rid of the season tickets, even though they're hiking up the prices because they add casitas and they add, sideline stuff. It's just not a good look for a struggling franchise. Gad saying fire everyone, start fresh again. It's tough firing everyone, but I just don't think, like I said, I like Monty Ossenfort. I like what he's about. I like Dave Sears, right? Our assistant GM. I like what all of them, they're all about. But unfortunately, you have to get better coaches. We just went through the draft picks. I like all the draft picks. I feel like they're great, but unfortunately, they're just not being elevated to the potential of where they could be. So I believe in Austin Ford. I believe in Dave Sears. I'm kind of on the fence about Gannon at this point. Going into the season, I liked what he was about. I liked where the vision he had for this team. I liked everything that was heading in the right direction. But with a season like this, when you're 3-7 and you're losing to 20 points against division rivals, I unfortunately starting to have questions about Gannon now. Is he coaching the team correctly, right? Is the messaging getting across, right? Is he losing the locker room? If the coaching is staying the same, you're still losing, and it's a bad prog on the field with 16, 17 penalties, then that just reflects on you as a head coach that you're not getting across to the players, you're not putting them in position to win, and unfortunately, if that keeps on happening, you're gonna have to be let go. Let's see. Drew Petzing just got fired. What? Hold on. You better not be lying to me. Let's see. DBO. Can someone comment to see if Drew Petzing just got fired? I mean, I haven't been on my phone this whole time. I doubt they would do it. Let's see. I don't think that happened. Yeah, right. I wish, Scotty. Yeah, I don't think that doesn't seem like a Jonathan Gannon thing to do to just right after a game fire someone. I'll still look, but I don't think. Yeah, I don't see anything happening. Yeah, Scotty, I think I would have got the notification too. So, yeah, hopefully tomorrow when we wake up Monday, something like that happens. But I just don't think that's going to happen for the fact that you don't have anyone behind you. You don't have anyone under Drew Petzing that you feel comfortable with calling plays. So I know it's bad right now, but definitely believe me, it could get a lot worse. Um, so yeah, I think Drew Petzing is at least going to be here for the end of the season. Maybe let's say the last 4 games of the season, last month, last 2 games, maybe you do fire him just to get a head start on potential future offensive coordinators, and you kind of see what you have in your own coaching staff. But yeah, I think for the most part, Petzing's going to stay. Let me see who's on this coaching staff, because outside of what's his name, Drew Terrell, I think there's someone else. I keep on forgetting their name. There's someone else where, yeah, I can't find it right now. But yeah, you just don't know who's gonna be on the other, who's calling plays after that. Um, I thought it was supposed to be our year. Yeah, Caleb, it sucks. I had really high hopes of going to the season. I think everyone did. Seeing how last year went, and also seeing how the offseason went. You got better on defense, right? You added Calais, added Davin Thomason, you added Josh Sweat, added Will Johnson, right? You had so many great things coming into the season, and honestly, in a matter of 5 weeks, you kind of really lost everyone. And I know I'm a big believer on looking on the bright side, but at the end of the day, you have to win. You have to win, at least make it competitive, and none of these games have been competitive at all, right? You obviously haven't won, but yeah, recently it just hasn't been competitive, and that's one of the worst things you could have as a team. Thoughts on Michael Wilson? I think he's a wide receiver. He's a great wide receiver, right? He's not the fastest, right? He's a big possession guy, but he's just playing unbelievable. He's playing out of his mind. He's making great athletic catches like he has been since he got drafted here. And I think for the most part, he could be a great number 2, right? This offense just needs to find a way to get him, Marv, Greg Dortch, and Trey McBride the ball. I mean, that's what your identity should be on offense. Your identity shouldn't be at this point, hey, let's run the ball, let's see what happens. We're a great run team, because you're not. Offensive line sucks, especially in the run game. They're a little bit better in the pass game, so lean into those strengths. Lean into the strength of Trey McBride, Marv, Michael Wilson, and let's keep on working off of that. Because obviously Jacoby could throw the hell out the ball, but you just need to learn how to use those players correctly. Underrated ass returner, yeah, Greg Dortch. Greg Dortch is great. 5 years is getting rid of Petzing enough. I think right now, getting rid of Petzing, you could do whatever you want to get rid of Petzing right now. I don't think anything's really going to change for this offense until the offseason, and it's unfortunate to say that. I think the season's sort of lost at this point. You're just playing Joker for the rest of the teams. If you could knock a team out of the playoffs, knock a Rams from having a home playoff schedule. So getting rid of Petzing is not going to change anything right now. I think ultimately at the end of the season, you're going to change offensive coordinators, and at that point, you're going to be able to have a new offense. Hopefully, use the weapons that you have at your disposal, being able to exploit them and have them play lights out next year. Because if you don't play good next year, let's say we have a repeat of this season next year, I believe that's it for Jonathan Gannon. He's definitely going to be back next year unless something crazy happens, down the stretch. But he's safe at least for this year. I don't think Michael Biddle either wants to pay. He doesn't want to pay Steve Keim. Doesn't want to pay Cliff Kingsbury. He doesn't want to pay Gannon, and then another head coach. He doesn't want to pay 4 different coaches and front office people for the next year or two, right? So I think Gannon's definitely staying. Let's see. Thoughts on Gannon? Yeah, Gannon. It's tough to say because, like I said, going into the season, I like Gannon. I thought he was great. I thought he was going to be that CEO, kind of a Mike Tomlin, kind of a John Harbaugh type where, yeah, he's not calling the defense, not calling the offense, but he's getting his players in positions to win. He's elevating the players around him. He's elevating DBs, right? That's one thing I'll give him, right? He's able to elevate defensive backs and secondaries, right? Corners and secondaries. He's able to do that for the most part, right? Dejan Taylor-Demerson, he's playing great. Jalen Thompson was playing great. Will Johnson's playing great. Max Melton's playing great. Denzel Burke's playing great. Garrett Williams playing great. You have all these great defensive players, right? Defensive secondary players. But everything else is just not being elevated at this moment. So I think Gannon's, like I said, is going to be here next year for sure. But I feel like next year is the real test for him. If he's able to get a great offensive coordinator, like my pick would be Brian Dable. He's my pick right now. If you're able to get Brian Dable in here as the offensive coordinator and be like, hey, be our offensive coordinator, fix this offense. You don't have to do anything outside of just calling offense, calling plays, and being a coordinator, right? Just focus on the offense, right? We'll get you whatever rookie quarterback you want within reason, right? We're not going to trade up for a Mendoza for the first top 3 to 5 picks, but definitely you are going to have your chance at choosing maybe those second-tier guys and see which one you like. And you're going to be working with Jacoby Brissett unless he pounds the table for Kyler Murray, then that's a different situation. But next year is going to be real telling on how Gannon fixes this offense. If he goes, let's say, I would hate to see this, but let's say next year he comes in and brings in like an Arthur Smith, then I'm out on Gannon, right? Just fire the whole team. I don't even want to watch that. If he calls in Stefanski, then I don't know, this same offense, right? Maybe it'll be executed a little bit better than Drew Petzing, but Kevin Stefanski is still the same offense, same type of offense as what we're running right now. So yeah, it's very critical this offseason for Gannon to find a good offensive coordinator, to find a good running mate, and to have this offense use the weapons they have at hand. Thoughts on K1's future here? Unfortunately, I'm a big K1 fan. I do believe he's a great quarterback. I feel like he could be a great quarterback in this league. But unfortunately, I think he already played his last game, the Titans. He played his last snap for the Cardinals. I think next year he's going to be probably, if I were to put my money right now, probably be a Jet. That's probably what I think is going to happen. The Jets, I mean, they just loaded up on a bunch of draft picks right now. So I'm not saying Kyler's going to go for like 1, 2, 3, 4 first-round picks. But I do believe he'd go maybe for a later first-round pick, for maybe a second-round pick, or maybe some pick swaps here and there. So the Jets, I believe, will be Kyler's next destination in New York. And with Aaron Glenn, another defensive coach, which sucks for him. But unless Kyler, unless Gannon and Austin Fort think that they're not going to get enough return for Kyler, with the trade, then I could see them potentially cutting him. But then that money's going to be tough. I mean, you have a bunch of you have a bunch of cap space right now anyways, but I think first and foremost, you're going to trade Kyler Murray. Unfortunately, I think that's what's going to happen. Unless, like I said, unless you have an offensive coordinator that comes in and says, hey, I like Kyler, give me Kyler. Then they pound the table for that. Then, that could be its own situation. But I think Kyler, for the most part, is going to be a future Jet. Adrian saying we somehow underperform on our realistic expectations. Yeah, I believe we had realistic expectations. I believe you could have been a sneaky wild card team, about 9, 10 wins. Vegas had them, I think, at 8.5 or 7.5. So yeah, being 3-7 right now is just unfortunate. I think just losing those close games, man, like the beginning of the year, losing against the 49ers 16-15 when you could have stopped them, losing against the Seahawks where you have that muff kickoff, just kick it off normally. Against the Titans, you let them come back. And those 3 games, if you're able to win 1, 2 of them, you look a lot better. The Colts, I don't think was going to be a win regardless. Same thing with the Packers. And I believe you could have played better against Seahawks and 49ers. I honestly believed that this 49ers game at home could have been a win. Just the way the 49ers were injured, the way the Cardinals were playing, I didn't think the Seahawks was going to be a win regardless of what happened. But this 49ers, I do believe we had a good shot at winning. It's just unfortunate how the game started. I think the team was kind of shell-shocked from last week, and they were never able to recover from there. Let's see. Yeah, so that's it. That's all I have for you guys today. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Yeah, you guys could always, like I said, DM me, tweet me, leave a comment on the video. I'm gonna repost for you guys on Instagram. I'm gonna repost this as a post. So if you guys have anything more to say, you guys can leave it on that. Other than that, let's hope next week. I think we're home against the Jaguars. Yeah, we're home against the Jaguars. Hopefully, it's gonna be an easier game than the NFC West that we just went through. So hopefully we get a win against the Jaguars. I mean, they just beat the Chargers by a lot. So I don't know if it was by a lot. Let me double check. Jaguars, they beat the Chargers. Yeah, 35-6. So I mean, you might just be walking into another buzzsaw, I guess, at that point. So ESPN has it 50-50 for the Cardinals, so it's a 50-50 game. I think they kind of give them the benefit of doubt at home. The Jaguars open up as a 2.5-point favorite, so a field goal. So, I mean, they're basically 50-50 at this point. So that's what Vegas has them as, if you guys are interested in that. Other than that, hopefully for a win next week, I think whatever happens with this team, I don't know if coaching is going to get better. You thought from last week they were going to be more on it, and they come out this week just flat. So who knows if it's going to snowball into the Jaguars week, but Jaguars does seem like the last win for the Cardinals for a while now. Because after the Jaguars, you have the Buccaneers and Rams. Those 2 weeks I think is going to be rough. And then you play Texans, which are another struggling team. Falcons have a high offense, right? Bengals have another good offense. Rams again. So Jaguars looks like it could be the last win of the season, boys and girls. So other than that, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys can, go check out my YouTube, right? It's in the bio. It's in the link in the bio. Go check me out. Subscribe if you guys haven't already. It really helps me out. Hopefully building this YouTube live stream. One last comment right here. Anthony saying we will always suck as long as the Bidwell's on the franchise. I mean, yeah, that's the sentiment going around the team right now, going around Twitter, going around Instagram, that the Bidwell is still on the team. So regardless of what happens, we'll have that curse on us. So, who knows? I do believe, like, the Lions changed their franchise around, man. The Rams changed their franchise around. They were perennial losers for a little bit. I do believe you could change the franchise around, right? The Chiefs, they changed their franchise around. They were just mid-team, for the most part, for a lot of their franchise. So I believe if you get the right players in place, and I'm not trying to help Bidwell in any manner, but Bidwell, for at least this regime for the last 2-3 years, he hasn't been involved in any of the football operations. I don't know if you guys know, but he kind of was meddling last regime with Kime and Kingsbury and all that, and with Bruce Arians too when it was around that time. Bidwell kind of had his fingerprints on a lot of the stuff, and that's why Bruce Arians kind of retired, right? He did a mini retirement and came back with the Bucks because Bidwell was kind of middling, and he was trying to control the franchise. Bidwell realized that's not a realistic thing. He hired someone from outside this organization, right? Someone from the New England, someone from the Titans when they were good, right? He was able to get someone outside of this organization to help him say, hey, how do I run my team better? And Gannon, straight up told him, let us worry about the football stuff. You worry about everything outside of it. And that's why you haven't seen Bidwell at all the past 2 years, right? You don't know what's happening with Bidwell. You see him do like the Arizona Hall of Fame stuff, the stuff with Larry Fitzgerald 2 weeks ago. He's not involved in the football operations, right? This is solely on Gannon and Austin Fort. So I do believe Austin Fort. I do like him, right? I said it enough this live stream, but with Gannon, I'm kind of on the fence about him. I like his messaging. Who knows if he can execute? That's the difference, right? You can have the greatest messaging in the world. If you can't execute and win games and have your team ready to play, then you just can't. You're not worth a head coaching spot. So Bidwell, he's out. He's not worrying. He's not focusing on the football stuff. I know it could be kind of a trickle down effect where, hey, Bidwell's up here. He's gonna if he's a bad owner, it's kind of that pyramid where like he's bad and everyone below is bad and it kind of trickles down. But I truly believe. I mean, I'm not in the organization. I can't see, but from what I know from people that I talk to, he's not into the football operations right now. So that's great. We're just trying to see if this coaching staff can coach. That's the first and main thing. So that's Anthony. That's what I'll say on that. Adrian, one last comment right here. Is there a reason why you haven't been posting as much this season as others? To be honest, Adrian, I've just been mainly posting on Twitter more because Instagram, unfortunately, hasn't been paying. So, yeah, I try and post consistently, but I mean, this is kind of it's not a paying thing for me right now. Twitter's paying, YouTube's paying. So that's kind of where I'm putting my focus on right now, and that's why I haven't been posting much on Instagram. But I do try and get these live streams here on Instagram consistently for you guys, at least once a week. If not, I'll try and make it 2 times a week. And I can start posting consistently more. It's just making the graphic, and it is just a lot different posting and tweeting my thoughts on X, Twitter, and then making a post and commenting like that on Instagram. So that's the difference for me right now. I'm getting, there's things coming up where I want to post clips and post content for you guys, especially on here on Instagram, TikTok, same thing. So hopefully I'll get more consistent on that. But other than that, that's the main reason why. Twitter's just and YouTube just paying a little bit more, so that's where I'm at right now. But yeah, I don't want to miss you guys here on Instagram because I do understand this is where I started on Instagram. This is where I kind of blew up to. So and then Instagram is real. Recently, I'm not too sure, but I know this past year Instagram's been real tricky about their content. So it's tough to kind of post content and not get, the type of views and type of interactions that you'd like when you're trying to, create good content. So that's kind of sucks at that point. Yeah, with the first 4 or 5 years, it was easier because you're getting consistent comments and consistent interactions. But at this point, Instagram was just being weird. So maybe I'll come back to Instagram and see if their kind of algorithm changed. But yeah, that's the reason why. Angel saying, what's your thoughts about the Cardinals having some injuries every week? I don't think that's something I really hit on this right now, but I think the strength and conditioning staff, I don't know what it is with them, but like the Walter Nolan and Darius Robinson calf injuries are weird. All these hamstring and groin injuries. As someone who kind of has a background in health and fitness and conditioning, they got to do more injury prevention, right? In the preseason, in the off season, I don't know what they're doing, but it's not working, right? You're getting consistent hamstring injuries, and I understand you're playing a physical sport, injuries are going to happen. But at this rate, something's happening, something's missing from the strength and conditioning staff. Hopefully they figure it out, because this strength and conditioning staff is kind of, I think they're John DeGannon's guys. I think they came from the Browns a few years ago, and they're still here. So whatever is happening, you got to fix something out. And I don't think it's going to happen now. It's going to happen in the off season. So I know that's a tough answer, but something has to change where these calf injuries, these like soft tissue injuries, hamstrings, groins, they have to change, because something like that is a reflection on your strength and conditioning staff. So there's the answer for that. If it wasn't for the injuries, the Cardinals would be on top of the NFC West. Yeah, I do believe, like, if James Conner was still here, if we had our secondary for those 3 weeks, right, Will Johnson was healthy, if Walter Nolan was healthy from the jump, I do believe we would play better. But at the end of it, if this coaching is crap right now, I don't think no amount of players can change what this offense is, and this offense is just bad. So yeah, that's it. I appreciate you guys, sticking with me, and I'll catch you guys next week. If not, I'll post, some stuff on Instagram, some stuff on Twitter. I'll definitely post the PFF scores and stuff like that, some highlights I'm able to find from next gens. So if you guys are interested in that, follow on the YouTube, follow Twitter, Instagram, on all socials. It's Cardinals update everywhere. So if you guys want to keep up with me, there it is. And I appreciate you guys joining and talking with me, being here with me. Hopefully, things change. But I see you guys next week, and appreciate you guys.